Good morning, Rosewood Homestead, and welcome to today's video where we're going to talk about self-reliance, food security, and emergency preparedness as we work down the list of videos requested by you, members of our community. And we're so thrilled for all of these questions. You have asked really good questions, which in turn I think will make very, very important and interesting videos. Like this one today, where we had someone ask, can you please talk about the different types of rice and how to store them? You bet. Now, knowing that there are over 4,000 different varieties of rice, you need to realize that I have not that level of expertise on all of those varieties. But I know a few, and I know the ones that we like to store. So we're going to do pretty basic information today, talking about the types of rice that are best for storage. So we're going to do three things. First of all, we're going to talk about the sizes and types of rice. Second, we'll talk about which ones are the best for storage. And then third, we're going to talk about how do we store rice, both short-term in our pantry and then long-term out in our food storage. So let's just dive right in. First of all, I actually, when I was doing the research for this video, learned some things about rice that I did not know. I mean, I always knew that there was long grain and short grain and medium grain, but I did not know exactly how they determined that, except of course one was longer and one was shorter. But there's actually a mathematical measurement that they use. So long grain rice, and I'm going to pull some out right here. This is our white rice right here, and I have it in long grain and short grain. And I'm just going to pull these lids off. This is how I usually keep it in our pantry. So the long grain rice, and Jim is going to come up and get a closer shot of it. Long grain on that side, short grain on this side, and so you can really see the difference. Now, long grain rice is 3 times longer than it is wide. Now, I don't know who takes out their little rulers and measures this, but that's what long grain is. Medium grain is next, and that's the one that I don't have. But that one is 2 to 3 times long as it is wide. Now, long grain cooks up firm and fluffy, but not sticky. Medium and short grain rice both cook up sticky, so that's an important thing to know. Short grain is less than twice as long as it is wide, so it's a little bit fat and stubby. So as we look at the different rices today, I'm going to be putting them out here so we can compare. These are the longs and these are the shorts. And as far as I know, I don't have any medium, but obviously they're going to be right in between. In addition to the white rice varieties that fall into those 3 measurements, there are specialty rices. And the specialty rices have really emerged and become popular in recent years. And that's jasmine and basmati. And there's one that's called arborio, and then toro, and many others too that I've never heard of before. So the two that I am most familiar in the specialty category are of course basmati and jasmine, and we do use both of those. And then in addition to those, there are the brown, purple, and black rices, and those do not have the hulls removed. All of the white rices have the hulls removed. The brown, black, purplish, reddish do not have the hulls removed, and therefore those hulls are oily, and that affects storage life. So which rice is best for storing? Well, the Utah Extension Service says, aside from this, that we should store, a good rule of thumb would be to store between 25 and 60 pounds of rice per person. Rice is so versatile, and I would rank it second only to wheat as a storage grain. Wheat is what I base our bread on, but if those of you who are not able to tolerate gluten very well, perhaps you would rank rice above wheat in your order of grains that you would like to store. So what you need to do is do what is best for your family. But with white rice and the bran removed, there has been no studies necessarily on which variety of white rice is better in terms of long-term storage. Now, here's our basmati rice. It is definitely a long grain. It's a little bit more yellow. This is what it looks like in our barrel. And then I have all of these other rices over here. I have a brown rice, and we have had this for a long time. This has just been in my cabinet. It is advertised as being a long grain rice on the outside of the package, and it certainly looks like it is. Then I have this short grain brown rice, and I'm just opening up this package today. Jim was kind enough to go in search of some different varieties of rice. So this goes on this side with the short grains, and it is again fat and stubby. But this is brown rice and this is brown rice, both with the hulls on, and so it takes a longer time to cook. And then this is jasmine rice, one that Jim found yesterday when he was out shopping. So I'm just going to put it here for a minute. Okay, wonder if it says on here if it's medium or long grain. So it says it's long grain. So we're going to move it over here with the longs. Move this one up a little bit. So it looks to me like there is some variety among the long grain rice varieties as well. And then this is red jasmine rice, which I bought when my sister and I were doing our book on protein bowls, because we did a lot of rice. And this, of course, is also long grain. In that book on protein bowls, we talk a lot about the different types of rice that we use as the basis for most of our protein bowls and how to cook it. Sometimes, even though there are instructions on the back, some of the experts we found on the internet disagreed with the instructions on the back of the bags of rice. You would think that the manufacturers would have the best information, but we found in our cooking that those that we considered experts gave a better ratio and better methodology, ratio of water to rice, and also a better methodology of how to cook the rice. And so that's all in that book. It is called Plain and Fancy Protein Bowls, and it is up on our website. Now, another type of rice is wild rice. Now this I'm going to put in the middle. It is wild rice mixed with long grain rice and herbs. And you can get these mixes pre-packaged because they do so many things with rice these days. So this is wild rice with herbs. And you can get a lot of these mixtures in the bulk food barrels at grocery stores that carry bulk foods. So this is a delicious rice when it is cooked up too. So just have fun and experiment with the different types of rice. Decide what you like best for what dishes, and then you can decide what you would like to store. And we have done that. So I store very little of anything except we've got the long grain rice and basmati rice are our two main white rices. And then I don't have much of anything else because the others just don't store long term very well. The other specialty rices I don't think store as long, but basmati does and jasmine does. Anything that is a white rice stores much longer. So let's just move right into how best to store rice. Okay, so I just want to give you some examples of how I do it. And as I was reading and researching, the way that we do it seems to agree with most of the information that I found on state extension services as well. So supposing, and we just recently did, we brought in 25 pounds of basmati rice. And I don't want to keep that in my pantry. It's way too big. Now, the thing about rice, like with all grains, we need to be sure that there are no bug eggs in the rice. And I've been a trusting soul all my life. You know, I buy something in a package that looks as nice as this one. I want to trust that there's no insect eggs in there. Well, as a fairly young married woman years ago, I went to my local grocery store, and I had $5 a week as my grocery budget. So every penny counted. And I had paid for a package of lasagna noodles, the long lasagna noodles in a package about like this and about this long, a name brand. And when I opened it up, it was full of bugs. I opened it the very same week that I bought it. Well, I needed to get my money back on that. So I took my receipt and the box back to the grocery store and asked to talk to the manager. And he was really short with me. He said, "We do not have bugs. Our store doesn't have bugs." And I said, "I bought this 5 days ago. I opened it up yesterday, and here's my receipt. I just need a new box of this, and I want it to be clean." And so we walked together over to the pasta area. And you know, a lot of those packages had the cellophane windows where you look in. And I pulled a box off the shelf, and you could see the bugs through the cellophane window. So I felt vindicated. I'm not a person who likes confrontation, and my heart was just pounding. And I learned from that experience that, you know, even when you bring things home from good companies, things happen. And so when I bring rice home, I have a certain procedure that I follow. And so I'm starting at the big end with the bulk. And so how do we store bulk rice when we bring it in? Well, we usually put it in food-safe plastic buckets, and then we either use dry ice or oxygen absorbers to kill the bugs. And I have videos on both of those that I'm going to link. You'll see the little thumbnails at the end of this video. I'll link both of those so that you can see. Now, some people, and we have done this as well, will line 5-gallon barrels, buckets, food grade buckets, with great big old Mylar bags. And I bought a package, and I have these left. I think I have 4 left. I think I've used 1. And they will put the rice or the grain or whatever it is they're storing in 5-gallon bags inside a Mylar bag, and then seal it shut. And you can put an oxygen absorber in and let it do its work, or you can use dry ice, and once the gas is dissipated, then you can seal it up. And then you seal the Mylar with either an impulse sealer, or you can use a curling iron or a regular iron to get it sealed. We usually do not line our 5-gallon buckets or even our 2-gallon buckets with Mylar. You can if you want. Now, here's the information on that, is that we have been putting our things now in these 2-gallon buckets because they are easier for us to carry. So we will line up our buckets. They've been washed and sanitized on the inside, and I use these gamma lids that circle around and around and around and around, and then they are airtight. There's a little gasket that runs on the inside right here. And so we will drop an oxygen absorber of the right size down in the bucket and leave it that way for a week. Now, an oxygen absorber will remove almost all of the air. Any bugs that are in there rely on oxygen. And when the oxygen is out of there, then they can't survive. And so we leave it for a week. And then I will bring 1 bucket like this in the house for using in the house. And then I will open it up. Now more oxygen is getting in, but the bugs are already gone. So this sits in my pantry. And so I will dip into this until it's all gone. And this was way up to here, so you can see that we use quite a bit of rice. And then on the inside, I remind myself of what the cooking instructions are. I do not put another oxygen absorber in there because my pantry is clear of bugs. This is an airtight container, and as long as I don't have population of bugs in my pantry that can get in if it's open, then I'm okay. Now, I have had pantry bugs before, and there's no shame in that. My gosh, it happens. And they're the darndest things to try to get rid of. We bought a 25-pound bag. Do you remember that bag of rice that we bought, Jim? In fact, it was
basmati rice.
Yeah, it was basmati rice from Costco. And I just put it in my pantry, and I kept meaning to take it out of the package. I don't leave rice in its regular package, and I'll get to that in a minute. And we just didn't ever get around to it for several months. And finally, I took it out and opened it up. Oh my gosh, it was crawling with bugs. So we wasted that whole 25-pound bag of rice. Went right out to the trash. Fortunately, it left none of its offspring behind, thankfully. So I've been much more careful. That was a really good reminder. So what do I do when I bring rice home? Now, this is how we store bulk rice, and it is out in our food storage, except we have several buckets. We had 25 pounds, some of the long grain white out there as well. So oxygen absorbers are dry ice to kill the bugs, and then we seal it up, however that happens, and then we leave it until we're ready to bring it in the house to use. And at that point in time, then I don't. Now, if it's in a 5-gallon container, and I'm not going to be using it super fast, I will dip out larger containers, and then I might put in an oxygen absorber again. Oxygen absorbers are really inexpensive compared to the amount of money that they will save you by saving your food. So that is basically how we store bulk rice when we bring it in for long-term storage. Now, what about packages like this? This is not going to be a long-term storage. We're going to be using this up. And I want the bugs dead in there. I don't think there are any, but I don't take any chances anymore. So I have a couple of options. Before I even open this, I can just put this in the freezer, if I had any freezer space, which I don't, and leave it for 3 days. That would kill the bugs. Then supposedly you're supposed to bring it out and let it sit for 24, 48 hours. If there are any eggs, they will hatch. Then you put it back in the freezer for another 3 days to kill the new hatchlings, which won't lay any eggs, and then you're good to go. To me, that is a lot of hustle bustle. And so what I do is I just will put it in an airtight container. Like these little plastic jars, and these are food safe jars. And I love these jars. They are very, very handy. I store a lot of things in these jars. I'll check to see if these are on our Amazon website, and if not, I will put them up there for your convenience in looking at them. And so then I just take scissors and I will cut the pieces of the label that I want to save to give me the information that I need. And so then I have the label right there. And since this is where I'll be grabbing it off the shelf, it's right there for me. And then if I need to know the cooking instructions, which I really don't after we wrote that book, I can just refer to my own book, which actually I do. I can just cut out the cooking direction and just keep them on the inside or put them on the top of the lid. I usually will just put them right on the top of the lid. Then what I will do, first time, right from the store, I will then drop in an oxygen absorber and just kind of push it down there. Get the lid on tight, and then I will put this in my pantry. And I leave it this way for at least a week. Then after a week, when I open it up, I do not re-put in another oxygen absorber, but I am sure now that when I get around to using this, even though there probably were not any bugs or eggs in there in the first place, now I know there are not because it has been treated with an oxygen absorber. And so smaller sizes will go right in a quart jar or a pint jar. This might fit in a pint jar, but I didn't want to take any chances. Drop in an oxygen absorber, put the lid on tight, relabel the top, of course, but it will have the package label here too. And this is what goes in my pantry. And this basmati, since I use it the most, goes right on the pantry floor. So that is essentially how we do rice. Now, the Utah Extension Service says, and don't you just love this, that the best temperature for storing rice is 40 degrees, constant 40 degrees. In what universe does that happen in most of our homes? I shouldn't be so critical, because some people have basements and rooms in their basement that they use strictly for food storage, that they can maintain that. We don't, and I have never lived in a place where I have been able to. But if you can do that at 40 degrees, it'll last 30 years. Or if you keep it, they say, at a straight 70 degrees, this rice will keep for 10 years. I wish I could say that we could even manage 70, but we can't. The only place we have, and sometimes you just have to work with what you've got. And what we've got is no place anywhere in our house where we can store this food, and so it's in the garage. And yes, we have insulated our garage, and we have a fan to remove the hot air in the summertime, but it gets above 70. And so we'll just keep using the rice until it isn't good anymore. And hopefully we'll live long enough on the rice that we have that it won't be a problem. And so that's the basic information on the sizes and types of rice, the best rice for storing, which again is any white rice. Brown rice, purple rice, black rice is not good for long-term storing, nor is this type of a mixture good for storing. Maybe 6 months for those because of the oil that is still in the hulls. And with wild rice, the wild rice itself isn't even rice. It is a grass, an aquatic grass, but it's mixed in here with some long grain regular rice. So 6 months, white rice can be up to 30 years if you store it at 40, and then and this is white rice as well. So this would go over here, this would go over here, but this red jasmine and the brown rice, wait. This is brown rice. So all these white rices would be okay for 30 years if you store them at 40 degrees, or 10 years if you store them at 70, or for a long time if you fluctuate. That's us. These rices over here, which is short grain brown, long grain brown, red jasmine, and then these mixtures, 6 months in your pantries. Now, regular rice, if I were to bring this home and then just keep it the way that it is, doing it like this, this will store 2 years after the oxygen absorber has been spent, and I open it up and then start using it. It's good in my pantry for 2 years. These long term. So that's it. And I hope this is helpful to those of you who wanted to know a little bit more information on the sizes and types, the best rice for storing, and then how to store it. So thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you at our next video.